There's this principle in screenwriting called the save the cat moment, and it can be described in brief as a moment of relatable empathy or charity that adds a protagonistic quality to a character. If you have a moment in your script where your hulking muscle beast alpha of a leading man goes out of his way to rescue an adorable cat from a tree, you've just added a dimension of warmth and relatability to a dude who also eats green berets for breakfast.
I eat green berets for breakfast.
And it makes you want to root for that character, despite whatever violence and brutality you'll see them commit otherwise. Yeah! Out for Justice attempts this, quite blatantly. Seagal doesn't save a cat, he saves a puppy. Instead of humanizing him, it just further exposes what a pork robot bastard man this character is. Steven Seagal is a baffling individual, a man whose outward performance is that of a principled valuer of justice, but whose active pursuit of those values results in him committing what probably should have been a felony animal cruelty via light armored vehicle rap. He makes films about the evils of corrupt societies while living in exile in the Russian Federation. Probably the quickest way I could sum up what this man considers ethical principles as portrayed on film can be found in The Glimmer Man, a film in which he supposedly portrays a principled pacifist who is returning to his fighting ways out of necessity, but who also keeps a razor gimmick credit card in his wallet. Excuse me? Pardon? You're a pacifist, and you keep this surviving edge weapon shit handy. Pardon? But that's one easily identifiable specimen as to what this man thinks is acceptable behavior for a protagonist who's also got a sense of justice and principles. Out for Justice, however, is a complete fucking ecosystem of these specimens, a nightmare bacteriological soup of bad behavior that somehow this hellman thinks amounts to some sort of paragon material. Specimens such as assault with bodily harm to a subject in police custody, murder via defenestration to a subject in police custody, this parking job, discharging a firearm through the ceiling of a basement establishment. Seriously, even the shit-heel gangsters point out how he could have killed somebody innocent extremely easily here. Victim blaming, elder abuse, victim blaming again, elder abuse again, mutilation of a civilian with a cleaver, elder abuse with a firearm, leaving an abandoned puppy loose in an unmarked police car during a vengeance run, without food or a bed.
Fuck you, Gino! I can't believe you're doing this.
I'm kind of disappointed. I thought you could get at least like 15.
Horophobia, literally gibbing a guy with a shotgun blast. The aforementioned execution via bullying. And whatever the fuck this accent is supposed to be.
And who's this one over here? Is that your girlfriend?
Every adversary is a destructible object, while every woman is something to be shaken until she cooperates. And this is a bully's outlook. Everything that is neither of those two is an object that can be had and used to facilitate the ends of this big, dumb human moose. A creature that's as ornery as he is territorial and directionless. To be clear, this movie is pretty much literally Steven Seagal pulling down trauma and damage onto the people that love him because of his overwhelming need to just murder one certain big fat guy. This is our hero of a film called Out for Justice, a complete and total asshole, shaped like this ponytailed construct of fleshy plasticine and cultural appropriation. And speaking of which... Steven Seagal plays an Italian-American in this film, one of New York's largest historical demographics. It's worth pointing out that Seagal himself isn't Italian. He claims people mistake him for Italian, which... okay, sure. But then you got him doing shit like this.
There was this old man who used to come to the neighborhood when we were kids. He was from the old country, you know. Carried an old school bell. He'd pull along this little sharpening machine operated by a foot pedal, right? And I remember all the neighbors used to come out to get their knives and scissors sharpened. Dime here, quarter there. But it was time goes on. People start buying like disposable scissors and knives and
Do you prep him with this shit, yeah?
Yeah. The last thing I said to him was go in there and bomb.
Well, it fucking worked.
And it's like fucking tooth pain. And I get it, bro. I get it. Your heritage is a mixture of European. You're a dude caught by the backswing of the white supremacy. That same shit that gives you privileges in society has also robbed you of a greater cultural background. You don't have culture or tradition. You just have whiteness. Trust me, unless you like being a racist shitheel who takes credit for the current state of society based on the fact that you live with a lack of melanin and think that this somehow makes you some form of chinless unicorn, this'll be a huge fucking bummer to you. The want to have a tribe is a deep pain. And everywhere you find communities of people, you find people that want to fit in but struggle to. And this hurts in a hell of a painful way. But if you've got that hurt in you, you don't fucking go and do this.
Huh?
Or this.
These people have a warrior.
Did you beat up on this little native man?
Or this.
This is my partner right here, Harlem.
Walks like a black man. Breathes like a killer.
Nice to meet you.
We're white, but we wanna be black. We're white, but we wanna be black.
The reality is, this is just the tip of the iceberg for this stench clown. This is the face of a man who thinks he can play dressing horse for a number of different ethnicities, all of which he is not. The man is not black. The man is not Chinese. The man may speak Japanese, but he is not Japanese. Ironically, he does claim to have some Russian in him, but then he goes and pronounces the name Vladimir like this.
Vladimir Putin.
He's also not First Nations, despite how hard he tries to force his ass into that seat. No.
What does it take to change the essence of a man?
I need time to change.
I do too.
Just... no. But here we go. Here's this dude speaking Italian, rubbing elbows all buddy-buddy with members of the mob and functionally behaving like a wise guy with a badge. I'm just going to point out that the original screenplay of this movie, entitled The Price of Our Blood, was rewritten entirely by Steven Seagal on the basis that the original screenwriter, John Flynn, quote, didn't understand Brooklyn. It's at this point that I'll bring up that Steven Seagal was born in Lansing, Michigan, and later moved to Fullerton, California when he was 5. Going beyond Out for Justice, it seems like the biggest event in his life that occurred in New York was getting called out for being the worst guest Saturday Night Live has ever had. So if you want to know what's informing this performance as a fiery, not-to-be-messed-with resident of the Italian hood in Brooklyn, it appears to be pure ego. In terms of authenticity, the man's a Jersey Shore Olive Garden. He takes folks' backgrounds and makes them into a hideous coat he can then stretch across his shoulders and drape his shabby form in. And once he's properly dressed, he starts brutalizing people in just the same old fashion. I'm not sure what he thinks he's doing when he does this. Maybe it's what respect looks like to him. I mean, if the coolest man in the world wants to wear your skin as a suit and murder people in it, that's gotta mean something, right? Right? Out for Justice was originally rated NC-17 for its violence, having a number of its more brutal scenes cut for international and video releases, only restored after coming to DVD. What was not restored to the DVD cut were scenes that Steven Seagal himself omitted from the rewrite of the script, scenes that featured and further fleshed out the character of Richie Madonna, who is otherwise nothing more than a crack-smoking violence cipher with a shitload of money to throw around and a small army of willing thugs posseed up with him, despite looking like his heart is about to violently explode at any minute.
Oh no!
This is because Seagal cut those scenes himself in the rewrite, as he felt that William Forsythe would upstage his own performance. Too bad it did anyway, because Seagal sucks that hard. Instead, we find ourselves at the end of a grisly road, littered with blood, corpses, mutilated bystanders, and traumatized victims. And this fucking loaf standing tall above all of them, while Greg Allman sings a soulful blues rock anthem about how Steven Seagal will totally wreck you if you get in his way.
This bad boy back in Brooklyn.
hunger is for pork. But we're skipping straight to the credits, and I'd be missing the great big elephant in the room, which is this film's bookend, how the film chooses to remind you of what a heroic individual Steven Seagal is, by having him obliterate the nuts of a dude who looks like he's nearly 50 and roughly as out of shape as a flat tire.
You a tough guy, huh?
Tough guy. I show you how fucking tough I am.
My balls.
This is the answer to Steven Seagal's prayers, a chance to be violent one final time to an inferior opponent. And hell, like I wouldn't aim to kick a man's heart out through his mouth via my foot in his scrotum if I caught him throwing a puppy into traffic. Ooh. But given all we've seen of Seagal and the depths he'll casually sink to in this movie, like the fact that he had the same puppy loose in his car while he was out turning 24 people into 24.5 coffins, it just comes off as a reach to rehumanize this hominid feral pig. We just watched this guy stab crack black into the frontal lobe with a corkscrew. Him walking into a Coney Island sunrise with his shell-shocked wife and a devastated wreck of a fat man moaning, "My balls!" doesn't feel like the closing of a man who is out for justice, but of a more persistent and competitive criminal predator having escaped it.
Jesus Christ, what are you doing like that? What are you sick? You did the right thing, Frank. Tell the boss what you did. Do the ritual thing, huh?
Are you sick?
Just a little. Cheech, put him in a fucking trunk in Jersey.
Improper treatment of a dead body in the service of the mafia. But if film is an art, and art is a window into a creative spirit, then we need to treat ourselves as if peering through the looking glass into the opinions and ideas that Steven Seagal has inside himself. He looked at what he wrote, the things he had himself as doing, and decided it should be called out for justice. The mind reels. And yet, if you think this story of Steven Seagal playing a hyper-competent cop went in wrong and bizarre directions, just wait until you see him play a hyper-competent criminal who possibly knows magic.